I was halfway through buttering toast when my phone buzzed with the kind of vibration that makes your stomach drop before you even know why. It wasn't Clara. She never texted me before 9 anymore. Her mornings were for leadership alignment, as she called it. No, this was my sister, Katie, dropping a link into the family group chat with no explanation, just 3 exclamation marks. I clicked it. Clara Davenport named youngest CEO in Rinhold Industries history. The toast slid from my hand and landed, butter side down, on the counter. I didn't even flinch at the mess. My eyes ran over the headline again and again, like maybe it would change if I stared long enough. The article's first paragraph was a neat little obituary for our marriage, though it didn't know it. It talked about her meteoric rise, the bold vision for expansion, the strategic relocation of headquarters. Not a word about her husband or children. Not a mention of the coastal move we'd been planning for over a year. Just corporate glory. Beneath it, there was a glossy photo of Clara shaking hands with some board members. Her smile was flawless, professional. The kind of smile you can frame for the Wall Street Journal, not the kind you share over burnt pancakes on a Sunday morning. And beside her, there he was. Julian Cross. The COO. The man I'd only heard about in casual mentions before, his name sliding past like background noise. Here, though, he was front and center, his arm draped just close enough to her shoulder that it looked protective without breaking HR policy. The group chat exploded. Katie, OMG Ethan. This is huge. Bottle with popping cork. Mom, so proud of Clara. You must be over the moon. Katie, does this mean you guys are moving to the city now? I didn't answer. I watched the little bubbles pop up like landmines, each one ready to detonate in my pocket. Another ping, from my friend Mark in a separate thread. Mark, dude, why didn't you tell me? Big secret. I closed the phone and set its screen down. The toast was cold. The kitchen felt colder. Clara and I had agreed, that we'd move to Gray Harbor after the kids finished this school year. It wasn't just a whim, it was a promise. I'd shown her the boat workshop my father left behind before he died. We'd stood in that dusty space together, watching dust motes spin in sunlight through the broken window. She squeezed my hand and told me, this feels like home. And now it was a press release that told me our home was going to be a 20-story office tower. The sound of little feet on hardwood pulled me back. Dad, where's the peanut butter? Olivia, our 7-year-old, stood in the doorway, hair a mess, wearing the unicorn pajamas she refused to give up. Behind her, Noah was half asleep, dragging his blanket like a cape. In the pantry, I said, my voice steady even though my heart was racing. Top shelf. Want me to get it? She shook her head, disappearing into the pantry like nothing in the world had shifted. Maybe for them, nothing had. Yet, after dropping the kids at school, I sat in the car longer than I should have, the radio on low, not listening. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Clara. Clara, hey. You saw. No hi, no how are you? I typed, then deleted. Finally, I just sent. Me, yes. 3 dots appeared. Paused. Disappeared. No reply. I drove home and opened my laptop. The news was everywhere, financial sites, LinkedIn posts, even lifestyle blogs writing about the CEO who balances motherhood and leadership. They didn't know that balance meant she hadn't been home for dinner 3 nights this week. Noah had asked if she was sleeping at work now. The official company Instagram had a carousel post, Clara cutting a ribbon, Clara in front of a podium, Clara with Julian holding a crystal award. Caption, a new era begins. I thought about the era we'd been building. The one with tide charts taped to the fridge, weekends teaching the kids to fish, slow mornings where nobody had to check an agenda before pouring coffee. That era was gone. Not with a fight, not with a conversation. Just gone. By evening, people I hadn't spoken to in years were messaging congratulations to me. Like I'd been promoted too. Like this was a win for us both. I copied and pasted polite thank yous, not sure if I was lying more to them or to myself. Katie called. I let it go to voicemail. She texted right after. Katie, are you mad? This is such an amazing opportunity for her. I stared at the words. I could almost hear her tone, the way people do when they think you're just jealous, not hurt. Clara came home late. Her heels clicked sharp against the tile. She smelled like the lobby of a luxury hotel, floral, expensive, impersonal. You didn't say anything all day, she said, dropping her bag by the door. I didn't realize we were making career announcements through the press now. She exhaled, sharp, like a laugh with no humor. It was all last minute. The board wanted to control the rollout. And you wanted to control the conversation, I said. By not having one. Her eyes narrowed just slightly. Ethan, this is the kind of role people dream of. It's security. For us. For the kids. Security. The word tasted like rust. Security wasn't what I wanted. We already had that. I wanted presence. I wanted her at the soccer games and bedtime stories. I wanted the life we'd promised each other in that dusty workshop. She went upstairs before I could say more, leaving the scent of her perfume lingering in the air, like an empty signature on a contract I never signed. That night, lying in bed, I scrolled back through the old photos on my phone, Clara laughing with Noah on her shoulders at the harbor, Olivia building sandcastles, the four of us eating ice cream on a windy pier. The light was golden in those pictures. Her smile was real. Somewhere between those sunsets and today's headline, we'd lost the thread. I didn't know it then, but this was the moment the unraveling began. And it wouldn't stop until I took the kids and disappeared. People always assume these things happen overnight, that one headline, one gala, one champagne toast is all it takes to change a life. But the truth is, it starts with quieter moments. Small shifts so subtle you don't see the fault line forming until the quake hits. For me, it began in my father's workshop. It was 2 months after Clara and I got married. We drove out to Gray Harbor on a rainy Saturday, just to get out of the city. My father had died the year before, leaving behind his boat-building shed, a long, weathered building with a tin roof and salt air in its bones. The windows were streaked with grime, the wooden doors swollen from years of storms. But inside smelled like cedar shavings and machine oil. Like him. I remember Clara stepping in beside me, the rain dripping from her coat. She didn't even flinch at the dust or the cobwebs. She ran her fingers along the half-finished hull of the sailboat he'd been working on, traced the curve like it was a living thing. "What's her name?" she asked. I shrugged. He never said. He wanted me to help pick it. She smiled, the warm, unguarded one she used to save for moments that mattered. "Then we'll name her together. Finish her together." That was the dream we agreed on. Someday, we'd live here. We'd restore the boat. Raise our kids with sand in their shoes and tide charts taped to the fridge. Back then, she meant it. I know she did. The first crack was easy to ignore. Clara had always been ambitious. Even in college, she had a calendar that looked like it belonged to a Fortune 500 executive. But it used to be balanced. She'd plan client meetings around anniversaries. She'd skip networking dinners to take the kids trick-or-treating. Then came Julian. At first, he was just a name in her stories about work. Julian thinks this strategy might cut costs, or Julian's got a contact in Singapore we should leverage. I didn't think twice about it. She had a dozen colleagues. But slowly, he became a colleague. The one she stayed late with. The one whose calls she took in the middle of dinner. The one she quoted like scripture. I told myself it was just business. That she was climbing the ladder, and he was holding it steady. I kept busy with the kids, the house, and freelance carpentry jobs. I told myself I was supporting her. That if I kept the home front solid, she could chase the big wins without worrying. And I believed, maybe foolishly, that when she'd climbed high enough, she'd climb back down and join me. But ambition is a tide that doesn't retreat. It only finds new shores. One night, maybe 2 years ago, I brought up the move again. We were in the kitchen, she was sipping wine, scrolling her phone. "I found a buyer for the house," I said. "If we sell in spring, we could move to Gray Harbor before the next school year." Her eyes didn't leave the screen. "This isn't the right time, Ethan. Things are accelerating at work. There's so much potential here. I thought the whole point was to get out before the kids are teenagers. So they grow up there." She finally looked up, and there was something in her face I couldn't name then, something halfway between pity and irritation. "Can we talk about this later? I've got a call with Julian at 10. That was the night I realized the workshop was just a story to her now. Something to nod at when she wanted to sound grounded in interviews. For me, it was still my father's legacy. The last thing he'd ever build. A promise I'd made silently, with my hand on its weathered hull, that I'd finish it someday. That my kids would sail in it. Clara's rise in the company didn't happen in leaps, it was a steady climb. First, she was head of strategy. Then vice president. Then COO. Each step came with more nights out, more urgent weekend calls, more company retreats I wasn't invited to. And with each step, Julian was right there. Always in the photos, always at her side. A shadow in a tailored suit. I remember one particularly sharp moment, the kind that should have told me everything. It was our anniversary, and I booked a table at the little French place we loved. She showed up 35 minutes late, her phone in hand. I stood when she arrived, leaning in to kiss her cheek. She turned her head just slightly, like she didn't want to smudge her lipstick. "Sorry," she said, sliding into her seat. Julian needed me to go over the Singapore pitch. I poured her wine, trying to hide the way my hands trembled. "And he couldn't do that without you tonight?" She gave a faint smile, the kind you give a child who doesn't understand. "It's not about me. It's about me. We're a team." We ate quickly. She kept checking her phone. The restaurant lights felt too bright, the music too soft, like the world was making space for her to leave early. She did. I don't think I ever admitted, even to myself, that I was losing her before the press release. I kept telling myself these were temporary sacrifices, stepping stones toward the life we wanted. But the truth is, she'd been building a different life entirely. A life with corner offices and ribbon cuttings, not tide charts and boat paint. And I'd been standing in the doorway of that dusty workshop, waiting for her to come back. The night before the announcement, we didn't even eat together. She came home after the kids were in bed, smelling faintly of champagne. I asked how her day was, and she said, "Big things are coming. I'll tell you tomorrow." She didn't. If you want to know why I took the kids and left, it wasn't just the headline. It wasn't just Julian, or the missed dinners, or the way she started calling the children resilient like it was a compliment for surviving her absence. It was the accumulation. The slow erosion of something we built with our hands and our words and our shared vision. By the time the tower rose in her life, the harbor in mine had already been abandoned. If I could go back to that day in the workshop, I'd still hold her hand and dream out loud. But I'd also start building the boat right then and there, with or without her. Because I see it now, dreams can't just be agreed on. They have to be defended. And I hadn't defended ours soon enough. Next came the gala, the night I met Julian in person, and realized that whatever partnership they had went deeper than job titles. That's where the tension shifted from quiet to public. The invitation came in a thick cream envelope with gold lettering, like it was announcing a royal wedding instead of a corporate gala. Rinhold Industries' annual Visionary Awards dinner. I wasn't sure if Clara expected me to come or just assumed I would. The kids were staying with Katie that night. Part of me wanted to skip it altogether, let her and Julian toast their success without me standing in the background. But another part, the stubborn part, wanted to see for myself what I was up against. If I was going to understand how she'd slipped so far from our harbor dreams, I needed to look the tide in the eye. The ballroom smelled like wealth, a faint mix of polished wood, champagne, and whatever cologne costs more than a month's mortgage. A string quartet played in the corner, their bows moving like they were afraid to breathe too hard. Clara found me near the entrance, dressed in an emerald gown that turned heads when she moved. For a second, just a second, I forgot everything. She was still the woman I married, the one who once sat barefoot on a dock eating fish and chips with me out of greasy paper. "You made it," she said, leaning in to kiss my cheek. Her lipstick left no trace. That felt deliberate. I said I would. I looked her over, then glanced around. "So, where's the man of the hour?" She tilted her head. "This is my night." "Sure," I said. "But isn't Julian always?" "Ethan." She cut me off, a smile fixed like a mask. "Please. Tonight, no drama." We were midway through dinner when he appeared. Tall, lean, suit so sharp you could cut your finger on it. Julian Cross. I'd seen him in photos, but in person he had a way of filling the space without raising his voice. "Clara," he said warmly, touching her shoulder as if it was his to touch. "You didn't tell me your husband was here." She smiled, a real one, this time. "Julian, this is Ethan." His handshake was firm but brief. His eyes, gray, assessing, took me in like I was a quarterly report he'd already decided wasn't worth investing in. "Pleasure," he said. "Likewise." I didn't mean it. Through the speeches and awards, I watched them. Not in a paranoid, jealous way, in a way you watch for patterns. The way he leaned toward her when someone else was speaking, murmuring in her ear. The way she laughed, that soft, private laugh I hadn't heard from her in months. The way his hand brushed hers when passing her a champagne glass. Maybe none of it would have mattered if I didn't already feel the ground shifting beneath us. But when the foundations cracked, every vibration feels like an earthquake. At one point, during a break between courses, Julian found me at the bar. "Clara says you've got kids," he said, like it was an interesting footnote. "2, I said. Olivia's 7. Noah's 9. He sipped his whiskey. "That must be challenging, with Clara's schedule." "It works when you want it to work," I said. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Ambition doesn't keep bankers' hours. She's got potential most people only dream of. My job's to make sure nothing gets in the way of that." I set my glass down. "Nothing, huh? Not even well-meaning distractions," he said smoothly, and walked away. Back at the table, Clara asked, "What were you two talking about?" "Oh, just how lucky you are to have someone so invested in your success," I said, my voice calm enough to make her eyes narrow. Later, there was dancing. Not the loose, joyful kind, the slow, polished kind that's meant to be photographed for company newsletters. I stood at the edge of the floor, watching her and Julian move together. Their steps were measured, their smiles practiced. If someone didn't know better, they'd think they were the power couple in the room. That's when I realized something that made my stomach knot. It wasn't just about attraction or loyalty. It was about alignment. They wanted the same world. And I wasn't part of it. On the ride home, she stared out the window, the city lights flickering across her face. "You were quiet tonight," she said. "Just taking it all in. And I get it now." She glanced at me, curious. "Get what? Why didn't you tell me about the CEO position until it was public?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. That night, lying in bed beside her, I kept thinking about Julian's words. Not even well-meaning distractions. I knew what he meant. I was the distraction. The kids were the distraction. The life we'd planned was a distraction. And that meant he, and maybe Clara too, had already decided we were expendable. The first line of defense in any war is awareness. Tonight, I saw the battlefield clearly for the first time. The next move, I decided, would be mine. The dinner invitation came 3 days after the gala, embossed card, Clara's neat handwriting scrawled across the top, "Let's make a night of it. Bring your best smile." It was a networking dinner, which really meant 2 hours of smiling politely while people who wore watches worth more than my truck discussed market shares and merger rumors. I considered telling her no, but the last time I skipped one of these, she came home talking about appearances and partnership optics, like our marriage was just another PR asset. So I went. The restaurant was all glass walls and chrome fixtures, perched high enough above the city that the streets below looked like a spilled box of matchsticks. Each table was lit from underneath, giving every wine glass an expensive glow. The air smelled faintly of truffle and cold metal. Clara arrived in a fitted black dress, her hair swept up in a way that made her look even taller. Julian was already there, leaning against the bar, laughing with a group of people who looked like they'd been born in boardrooms. When he saw me, his smile didn't change, but something in his eyes flickered, recognition, maybe, or calculation. We were seated at a long table near the window. Clara sat between Julian and me, though if you watched for more than a minute, you'd forget I was there. Every question from the other guests went through her or him. The conversation floated between IPOs, international regulations, and a boutique hotel in Singapore they were considering acquiring. My contribution was nodding at the right moments and taking slow sips of water. Then one of the executive's wives turned to me. "So, Ethan, what is it you do?" "I work with my hands," I said. "Carpentry, mostly. Right now I'm restoring my father's old workshop." There was a beat of silence, not unkind, but the kind that says, "Oh, you're not one of us." Clara jumped in. "He's being modest. He's great with design." "I'm fine," I said, cutting her off. "It's just work. Nothing that'll end up in a press release." Julian smirked, swirling his wine. "We all have our passions. Some just happen to scale better." The table chuckled politely. My glass felt heavier in my hand. When dessert arrived, something delicate with spun sugar and gold leaf, the topic turned to family. One man joked about barely seeing his kids during deal season. The laughter that followed was knowing, almost proud. I set my fork down. "That's not funny," I said, louder than I intended. The table went quiet. Clara's hand touched my arm, light and warning. "Ethan. I'm just saying," I went on, "missing your kids' lives isn't a punchline. You either show up or you don't." Julian's voice was smooth, almost amused. And yet, some of us are building futures that kids will benefit from long after the day-to-day is forgotten. I met his gaze. Some of us think the day-to-day is the future. The silence that followed was sharper than any argument. We made it through the rest of the dinner on autopilot. Clara smiled at the right times, changed the subject, kept everything polished. I didn't say much. Outside, the night air was cold enough to bite. We walked to the valet stand in silence. Finally, she spoke. What the hell was that? What was what? You embarrassed me. No, Clara. I reminded them, and you, that kids aren't props for speeches about legacy. Her eyes flashed in the streetlight. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. And you don't understand the life you're trading away, I said. The valet pulled up with her car before she could answer. When we got home, she went straight upstairs without a word. I stood in the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and scrolled through my contacts. Her work number was still there, the one Julian had called me from once, back when she wanted me to pick up dry cleaning for a last-minute strategy session. I deleted it. It was a small thing, a symbolic thing. But it felt like the first brick pulled from the wall between us, my side of the wall, at least. I went to bed alone that night. The city lights outside our window reflected faintly on the glass, sharp and cold. The charity gala was supposed to be about the children's hospital. That's how Clara pitched it when she asked me to come, all warmth and good intentions. It's not just another corporate thing, she'd said. This one matters. I wanted to believe her. I even let myself imagine an evening where we'd be on the same side of the conversation for once. But when we arrived, I saw the Rinhold logo splashed across the entryway banner in letters taller than me, and I knew exactly whose night it really was. The ballroom was even grander than the last, chandeliers dripping with crystal, tables dressed in white linen and scattered with orchids. Photographers roamed like vultures with flashbulbs, catching every handshake and polished smile. Clara looked perfect, of course. Midnight blue gown, understated diamond earrings, hair swept to one side. She'd dressed me well, too. Navy suits, pressed shirts, shoes shined within an inch of their life. We looked like a couple in harmony. It was a lie. Julian was already there, speaking to a cluster of donors near the stage. He spotted Clara and made his way over, his expression lighting in a way that should have been reserved for spouses. Clara, he said warmly, taking her hands. Stunning as always. She laughed, a soft, private laugh that twisted in my gut, and introduced me to the donors. They nodded politely, their eyes already sliding back to her and Julian. I might as well have been holding her purse. Dinner was served in courses that looked like they belonged in an art museum. Between bites, the conversation danced around corporate partnerships, future expansions, and Julian's latest, visionary, proposal for the company's philanthropic wing. Clara leaned in, laughing at his jokes, finishing his sentences. When the MC called her to the stage to speak about Rinhold's commitment to community, I watched her cross the floor with the poise of someone who belonged in that light. She didn't look back at me once. Her speech was polished, heartfelt on the surface, but I could hear the subtext. Every sentence was an advertisement. She talked about building futures, about leading with courage, about being present where it matters most. And there it was, the line that snapped something in me. We all make sacrifices in service of a greater vision. Sometimes that means missing moments, but it's worth it for the lives we can change. The crowd applauded. I didn't. When she returned to the table, I leaned in. That's easy to say when the moments you're missing aren't yours. Her smile faltered, just for a second. Ethan. No, say it. Say you think missing our kids' milestones is worth it for a quarterly report. Her jaw tightened. Around us, the polite chatter dipped. People were listening. Julian's hand landed lightly on the back of her chair. This isn't the place, Ethan. I turned to him. Funny, I didn't realize you were the one who decided where and when I got to talk to my wife. A ripple went through the nearby tables. Julian didn't flinch. If you want to have a productive conversation, I suggest you take it somewhere private. Otherwise, you're just undermining her in public. And what exactly do you call what you're doing? I shot back. Clara stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the marble floor. Enough, both of you. Her voice was calm, but the steel in it was unmistakable. She turned to me. I'm going to finish the evening with my team. You can stay, or you can go. It wasn't a request. It was a choice, and a warning. I left. The flashes from the photographers followed me to the door, catching my tight jaw, my clenched fists. I knew by morning there'd be some neatly cropped photo of me walking out alone, and some caption about mystery tension at Rinhold charity gala. On the drive home, I kept replaying the look in her eyes when she stood up. Not anger. Not embarrassment. Something worse, dismissal. Like I'd already been filed away in a cabinet labeled obsolete. By the time I reached the house, I knew I'd crossed an invisible line tonight. Whatever was left between us had just been dragged into the light for others to see. And that meant she'd have to choose whether to patch it up, or let it break completely. The phone rings at 1:47 a.m. It's not the kids, they're asleep upstairs, safe in the house's deep quiet. It's not an emergency number. It's her. For a second, I just stare at the screen, the glow cutting into the dark like a blade. The part of me that still runs on old reflexes wants to answer immediately. The part that's been counting all the time she hasn't picked up when I called. I want to let it go to voicemail. I swipe to answer. Ethan, she breathes, like she's been running. You left so fast tonight. You told me to, I say. I told you to make a choice, not storm out. There's the faint clink of glass on her end, a soft fizz of champagne being set down. She's still at the hotel, probably in one of those gold-lit suites they give to keynote speakers. I didn't storm out, Clara. I left before I said something that would really make tomorrow's gossip columns happy. She exhales sharply, not quite a laugh, not quite a sigh. You made it into a scene, Ethan. That's not you. No, I say, it's not me. But then again, a lot of things lately aren't me. Like standing in a room while my wife shares a stage with a man who acts like he's her other half. Silence. When she speaks again, her voice is measured, the way it gets when she's lining up her talking points. Julian is my colleague. He believes in what we're building. This isn't personal. It's not personal that you miss Ella's school play for the third year in a row. It's not personal that you're more familiar with Julian's schedule than with what's in our fridge. Don't turn this into. No, Clara, I cut in. I'm not turning it into anything. It's already become this. The pause stretches, then she shifts tactics. You think I don't notice the things I miss? You think I don't feel it? This is the cost, Ethan. Every dream has one. I rub my forehead, the skin tight with exhaustion. That's the difference. This isn't my dream. It never was. You used to tell me you believed in me. I did. I still do. I just don't believe in this, in what it's doing to us. She lowers her voice. You're being dramatic, am I? Or is it just easier to call it drama than to admit you don't want to change? Her breathing sharpens, then steadies. I called to say I'm sorry for how tonight went. I don't want us to fight like this. You called because you want me to stay quiet next time, I say. Because if I keep my mouth shut, the image stays clean. That's not fair. It's true. There's a brittle sound on her end, maybe ice settling in a glass. Ethan, you've always been the one who grounded me. Don't start pulling away now. I stare at the dark ceiling. Grounding you isn't the same as following you into a storm I didn't choose. Then what? You want me to walk away from everything I've worked for? I want you to remember that there was a time you didn't have to choose between what you worked for and who you worked for it with. She doesn't answer right away. When she does, it's soft, almost wounded. I can't go back to that, Ethan. Not now. I know, I say. And I do know. Which is exactly why I also know something else. I'm not going where she's headed. We ended the call without goodnight. The phone's glow fades, leaving only the dark and the distant hum of the city through the window. Somewhere between her first word and her last, something in me stopped waiting for her to change. It's Saturday morning, the kind where the light comes in soft through the blinds and the kids pad around in socks, dragging blankets behind them. I'm halfway through making pancakes when my phone buzzes on the counter. It's not Clara. It's David. 3 words in the text, have you seen this? And a link. The first tap brings up Instagram. The second brings up her profile. And there it is, the photo. Clara, in a red silk dress I've never seen before, standing under a cascade of fairy lights on some rooftop terrace. Julian's beside her, his hand resting on the small of her back. Both of them holding glasses of champagne, leaning in just enough to make it look like the world has blurred away except for the two of them. The caption isn't hers, it's from Rinhold's official account. But the tag is there. Visionaries don't just lead, they inspire. Congratulations to our unstoppable CEO, Clara Hayes, and our head of strategy, Julian Ward, on closing a record-breaking quarter. The comments are a flood. Power couple. Such chemistry. You two are unstoppable. My first instinct is to scroll, to look for some angle where it's all just professional. But the longer I look, the clearer it is, this isn't a corporate handshake moment. This is a moment we belong together. And it's being served up for anyone who cares to double tap. I lock the phone and stare at the counter. The pancakes are burning. Ella tugs on my sleeve. Dad, smoke. I flip the skillet off the burner, the blackened pancake folding in on itself like it's ashamed. Sorry, kiddo. Guess it's cereal today. She shrugs and skips off, unbothered. Kids are good at not knowing what's wrong. Or maybe they do know, but they're better at pretending. I wish I still had that skill. I go to the living room and sink into the couch. The phone is still in my hand, heavy like it knows what it's done. I think about not looking again. I think about blocking the account entirely. But that would be pretending, and I've done enough of that. I open the app again. By now, the post has been reshared, not just by Rinhold employees, but by Clara's friends, mutual acquaintances, even a few of the parents from the kids' school. Every share is like another brick sealing me on the outside of her world. David calls this time, no text. I answer. You saw it, he says. Yeah. There's a pause. You okay? Define okay. I mean, do you still think this is just about work? I laugh, but it's a hollow sound. No. Not anymore. Ethan, I've been holding back, because I thought maybe you were still trying to make it work. I cut in. I'm not anymore. He lets that hang for a second. So what now? I don't know yet, I say. But that's not true. I do know. I've known since the gala. The post just nailed it into place. The rest of the day is a blur of small things, helping Ella with her craft project, watching Ben try to beat his record on the trampoline, ordering takeout for dinner. All the while, my mind keeps circling back to that image of her under the fairy lights, his hand on her back. It's not the physical closeness that guts me, it's how natural it looked. Like she's been leaning into him for months, maybe years, and I just didn't see it until someone decided it was photogenic. That night, after the kids are asleep, I go into the study and pull out the old leather journal my dad gave me before he died. I flip to a blank page. I write the date. And then I write, today I stopped waiting for her to come back. The words look small on the page, but they feel enormous in my chest. I don't post anything. I don't call her. I didn't even save the photo. But I know it'll stick in my mind exactly as it was, the moment the last thread snapped. Tomorrow, I'll start figuring out how to leave. It starts with a list. Not a neat one, just messy scrawl across a yellow legal pad in my kitchen at midnight. Find somewhere for the kids and me, somewhere she can't just show up. Talk to the lawyer David recommended. Pull money from the joint account before she notices. Pack light. Essentials only. It's not a list of dreams or resolutions. It's a plan of escape. By morning, I've already made the first call. The lawyer's voice is calm, low, and practiced. He doesn't sound surprised. He probably hears a lot of stories that start the same way mine does, with the moment a marriage stopped being a home and became a battlefield. Don't tell her yet, he advises. Get your logistics in place first. The less warning she has, the less she can control. I thank him, hang up, and stare at my phone until the kids wander in asking about breakfast. By the end of the week, I've booked a cabin 3 hours north. Remote. Not fancy, but it has what matters, space, heat, and no cell signal worth a damn. The kind of place where you can hear your own thoughts without the hum of traffic or the buzz of push notifications. David helps me load the car. He doesn't say much, just hands me boxes like he's done this before for someone else. You sure? He asks once, leaning on the trunk. Yeah, I say. If I stay, I'll keep making excuses. I'm out of excuses. The kids think we're going on a trip. And in a way, we are. I don't tell them it's one way. I just tell them to pack their favorite things and that yes, the cabin has room for Ella's giant stuffed fox and Ben's Lego tower. We're halfway up the highway when my phone buzzes with Clara's name. I let it go to voicemail. Then again. By the fourth missed call, she texts, "Where are you? We need to talk." I don't answer. She catches me before I can vanish completely. We've stopped for gas in a small town just off the interstate. The kids are inside picking snacks when her car pulls in beside mine, sleek black SUV, tinted windows. She steps out in heels and sunglasses like she's just walked off a runway. For a second, I almost laugh at how wrong she looks against the cracked asphalt and flickering neon of the gas station sign. "Ethan, she says, striding toward me. What the hell is going on? I keep my hands on the pump. We're going away for a while. With my children? Our children, I correct. And yes. You can't just disappear with them. That's not illegal. I cut in. I talked to a lawyer. I'm well within my rights. Her mouth tightens. So this is it. You're running away. I'm leaving before there's nothing left of me for them to know. She laughs, sharp, brittle. This is ridiculous. You're blowing everything out of proportion because you're jealous of Julian. This isn't about Julian, I say, though my voice catches. It's about you. About the way you've built a life that doesn't have room for us anymore. That's not true. It's true enough that I can see it in your Instagram feed before I hear it from you. Her hand twitches toward my arm, then falls. Ethan, come home. We can fix this. No, I say. You can't fix something you don't think is broken. The kids come running back with bags of chips and juice boxes, and the look on her face shifts, part anger, part calculation. Ben, Ella, she says, crouching down. Why don't you ride back with me? Daddy's making a mistake. I step between them. They're staying with me. For a long moment, we just stand there, the hum of the gas pump the only sound. Then she straightens, smooths her jacket, and says, if you go, don't expect me to wait around. I almost told her I stopped expecting that a long time ago. But I don't. I just nod, hang up the nozzle, and get in the car. In the rearview mirror, she's still standing there, sunglasses hiding her eyes, until the road curves and she's gone. The cabin greets us with the smell of pine and dust. The kids run from room to room like explorers. I unload the car slowly, letting the quiet seep in. That night, after they've fallen asleep in their bunk beds, I step outside. The sky is full of stars, sharp and cold against the dark. For the first time in months, maybe years, I breathe without feeling like I'm stealing the air. The mornings here start slow. No alarm. No rush to iron shirts or pack lunchboxes while Clara's voice cuts through the kitchen with another phone call to the board. Just the faint creak of the cabin's wood settling in the cold, the hiss of the kettle, and the sound of Ella giggling under a blanket because Ben insists on telling her a mountain story before breakfast. I pour coffee, watch the steam curl toward the low ceiling beams, and think, this is what I wanted. Not a mansion, not a corner office. Just this. We fall into a rhythm fast. Mornings are for schoolwork at the big oak table by the window, afternoons for walks in the woods. David mailed me a stack of books, paperbacks worn soft at the edges, and I read them while the kids build forts or paint pine cones in the yard. Some nights, we light a fire and I let them stay up late, roasting marshmallows, sticky hands leaving little ghosts on the sofa cushions. It's messy, imperfect, and it feels more like home than the penthouse ever did. But Clara's world still leaks in. I don't follow her anymore. I made sure to unfollow everything the day we left, but people send me things. Screenshots. Articles. A photo from a black tie gala. She's in a dress that looks like liquid metal, Julian at her side in a sharp black suit. The caption from the company's PR account calls them the visionary duo shaping the future of the industry. The kids see it once when Ella wanders into the kitchen while I'm scrolling. Mommy looks pretty, she says, and I force a smile. The distance makes her seem unreal, like she's a character on a show I used to watch but stopped caring about. Still, there are moments, late at night, when the quiet feels heavier than the snow outside, and I think about the first time I saw her. The laugh that pulled me in. The plans we made before everything turned into a performance. One afternoon, a package arrives. No return address. Inside, a set of the kids' winter coats from a designer brand I know costs more than a month's rent here. I found the note at the bottom. They'll need these. The weather there's harsh. No love, Mom. No apology. Just a reminder she's still watching. I let the coats sit in their box for 3 days before finally giving in and letting the kids wear them. Ben says his is too fancy for the woods, but he wears it anyway because it's warm. When we walk into the small town for groceries, people notice. Not in a judgmental way, just curious. Outsiders are rare here, and we still carry the city on our backs. At the general store, the owner, an older woman named Maggie, nods at the kids' coats and asks, "From the city?" I just say, something like that. She doesn't press. People here don't seem to need the whole story, just enough to know where to place you in their mental map. That night, I found myself on her public profile again. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to see if she'd posted about the coats. Instead, there's a picture of her on a stage, microphone in hand, giving a keynote speech. Thousands of likes. Hundreds of comments. And there's Julian again, clapping in the front row. The caption reads, "Some dreams are too big to share." I close the app. My coffee's gone cold. The kids are asleep. And I realize, she's right. Some dreams can't be shared. But maybe mine never needed to be hers. A week later, I got invited to a local community dinner at the town hall. Maggie says it's the best way to meet folks, so we go. It's nothing like the corporate events Clara used to drag me to, no speeches, no photo ops, just mismatched folding chairs, long tables, and food that tastes like someone cooked it because they cared, not because they were paid. Ben sits with a group of kids his age, trading Pokemon cards. Ella finds a corner with a coloring book. And me? I sit down next to a woman I've never seen before. She smiles, says her name's Anna, and asks if I'm the one renting Maggie's cousin's cabin. I tell her I am. She says, "Welcome home," like it's already true. When we walk back that night under a sky littered with stars, I realize something. Clara's world might be louder, shinier, and bigger. But this one, here in the quiet, is mine. It happens on a Tuesday. I'm in town picking up supplies, flour, milk, some bolts for the back porch, when I hear my name. Not my full name, not Ethan Brooks like they'd use in some boardroom. Just Ethan, soft but sharp enough to cut through the murmur of the general store. I know the voice before I turn. She's standing by the shelf of canned soups, wearing a coat that looks like it was flown in from Paris, sunglasses pushed up on her head. It's so out of place here that for a second I think I've imagined her. "Clara." My voice comes out flatter than I expect. Her eyes scan me, the unshaven jaw, the flannel shirt, the cart with milk and kid snacks, and something unreadable flickers across her face. "I didn't think I'd find you here," she says. It sounds almost casual, but her fingers are white around the strap of her handbag. I glance at the door. The kids are outside with Maggie, feeding the store cat. "Guess you did." There's a beat of silence where we just look at each other. "You look different," she says finally. "Happy?" I offer. She doesn't answer. We walk to the register together, her heels clicking on the worn wooden floor. She's not wearing her ring, I notice without meaning to. At the counter, Maggie gives her a polite but distant smile, the kind she saves for strangers passing through. I pay for my things while Clara just stands there, like she's waiting for me to invite her into my day. I don't. Outside, the air is cold and sharp with cold. The kids run up immediately, Ella with sticky hands from the peppermint sticks Maggie gave them, Ben with cat hair stuck to his sweater. "Mom," Ella says, hesitant, like she's testing the word. Clara crouches down, hugs them both quickly. It's a short, careful hug, not the kind that leaves your hair messed up and your ribs aching. "We should talk," she says to me. I shake my head. "About what?" "You made your choice." Her jaw tightens. "It's not that simple." "It's exactly that simple," I say. "You chose the company. You chose Julian. You chose that life. The kids are watching, so I lower my voice. You left this one." She follows me to the truck. "You're not being fair." I laugh, short, humorless. "Fair. I took the kids because I wasn't going to let them grow up as background characters in your PR story." Her eyes flash at that. "That's not what I was doing." "Maybe not at first," I say, opening the truck door for the kids. "But it's what it became." She stands there in the parking lot, hair catching in the wind, looking like someone who's used to being listened to, and isn't sure what to do when she's not. "Can I see them? Just for the afternoon?" she asks. I don't look at her. "Not today." Her lips press into a thin line. "You think you're protecting them, but..." "No," I cut in. "I know I am." We drove off. In the mirror, she's still standing there, one hand on her hip, the other holding her phone like she's about to call someone. Maybe Julian. Maybe a lawyer. Ben doesn't say anything. Ella hums quietly to herself in the back seat. And me? I grip the wheel, heart hammering, realizing I didn't feel pulled toward her at all. No ache. No what if. Just space. That night, after the kids are asleep, I sit by the fire and think about how she looked in the store, polished, sure of herself, like she was about to pitch me on something. And how it didn't work. I realize she doesn't know me anymore. Not the version that wakes up to frost on the windows and bread rising in the oven. Not the one who doesn't need her approval to breathe. And that's when it hits me, I'm not the one crossing paths anymore. She is. It starts with an email. Not a call, not a text, an email from her assistant, requesting a mutually agreeable meeting time to discuss visitation parameters. No warmth, no casual check-in. Just corporate phrasing, like we're negotiating shipping rights instead of talking about our children. I don't respond. 3 days later, she shows up. It's a Saturday morning, the smell of pancakes filling the kitchen, Ella in her pajamas with strawberry jam on her cheek, Ben building a tower out of sugar packets he swiped from the cafe yesterday. Then a knock, 3 quick raps on the door, the kind that expects to be answered. I open it to see Clara standing there in a tailored coat and boots that cost more than my monthly mortgage payment, her hair perfect despite the wind. Ethan, we need to talk. I glance back at the kitchen, then step outside, closing the door behind me. You could have called. You don't answer my calls. There's a reason for that. She folds her arms, eyes narrowing. I've been patient. I've respected your space. But this can't go on forever. They're my kids too. I keep my voice low. They're not a photo op, Clara. They're not something you can schedule in between keynote speeches. Her jaw clenches. That's not fair. It's true. She steps closer, lowering her voice. You think I don't lie awake every night thinking about them? About what I'm missing? I do, Ethan. I hate it. But I can't just walk away from everything I've built. I let the silence stretch. She's hoping I'll say something that gives her an opening, but I'm not giving her that. Finally, she exhales sharply. Let me take them for the weekend. Just one. We'll go to the lake house, make s'mores, like we used to. They're not props to recreate a past you abandoned, I say. Her expression hardens. I'm their mother. And I'm their father, I reply. The one who stayed when you didn't. For a moment, she looks like she might cry. But then something shifts, the CEO mask slipping back on. If you keep shutting me out, Ethan, I'll have no choice but to go through the courts. I nod slowly. You do what you need to do. But you should know, the kids aren't waiting for you the way you think they are. That one lands. I can see it in the way she blinks, like I've hit a nerve. She leaves without another word. I watch her car disappear down the road, the tires kicking up a thin spray of gravel. When I go back inside, Ella asks, was that Mom? Yeah, I say, ruffling her hair. She just stopped by. Ben doesn't even look up from his tower. That afternoon, instead of letting the conversation hang over us, I took them to the farmer's market. We buy cider and kettle corn, and watch the local band play under the tent. While Ella dances in the grass and Ben trades jokes with the cider vendor, I realize something. My life is already full. Clara's plea might have been desperate, but it's not the center of my world anymore. And maybe that's the real reason she came, because she can see that. It begins with a letter. Not typed, handwritten. Clara's handwriting used to be all loops and flourishes when we were young, the kind that filled the margins of my college notebooks with notes and doodles. This one is neat, deliberate, as if she's afraid to let the pen slip into anything messy. She's asking for one last meeting. Says she wants closure. Says she doesn't want to fight anymore. I've learned enough to know, closure, can be another word for, one more chance to pull you back in. Still, I agree, but on my terms. We met at the community cafe on the edge of town. Neutral ground. The kind of place where the walls are lined with local art, the coffee comes in mismatched mugs, and everyone knows the name of the woman who makes the cinnamon rolls. When I walk in, she's already there, sitting by the window. She's dressed down this time, jeans, a cream sweater, but it's still polished in a way that doesn't quite fit here. Thanks for coming, she says, her voice softer than it's been in months. I'm only here so we can be clear, I reply. Her eyes search mine. Clear about what? That this is over. For good. Her lips press together. Ethan, we have children. It can't ever really be over. We'll always both be their parents, I say. But you and me, the life we had, that's done. I've built something new here, and it doesn't have room for the kind of chaos you bring. Her hands tighten on her mug. Chaos? I've worked hard to give us stability. You worked hard to give yourself stability, I cut in. We just weren't part of the equation anymore. There's a long pause. Then she says, you've changed. I nod. That's the point. She leans back, sighing. I miss them, Ethan. More than you know. I believe you, I say. But missing them doesn't erase the choices you made. We sit there for a while, the clink of cups and low hum of conversation filling the space. I expect her to push, to bargain, to offer something shiny in exchange for time with the kids. Instead, she finally says, "Then I guess I should stop calling." "That's best," I reply. When she leaves, I watch her walk to her car without looking back. The glass door swings shut behind her, and it feels like a page closing, not with a slam, but with the finality of a book you know you won't open again. That night, I told the kids we're painting their bedroom walls whatever colors they want. Ella chooses a pale yellow, like the sun. Ben wants deep blue, like the night when the stars come out. We paint all weekend. When it's done, and the rooms smell faintly of fresh paint, I realize something. These walls, this life, this rhythm, they're ours. Not shared, not negotiated, not on borrowed time. And for the first time in a long while, there's no shadow of Clara leaning over it. It's funny how quickly you can start noticing someone once you've decided to move forward. Her name's Anna. We've passed each other a dozen times at the Saturday market. She runs the flower stall, always wearing a denim apron dusted with pollen. I've bought bouquets for Ella before, but never lingered. Today, I do. Ella's holding my hand, Ben is carrying a bag of apples, and Anna is arranging sunflowers in a galvanized bucket. She looks up, smiles, and says, "Back for more." I glance at Ella. I think she wants the yellow ones again. "Good choice," Anna says, wrapping them in paper. Yellow's the color of beginnings. We talk longer than I expect, about the weather, about the music playing in the square, about how she's from a small coastal town where the wind smells like salt and rosemary. There's no weight to it, no push or pull, just an easy conversation that feels like a door opening. When we leave, Ella whispers, "You like her." I laugh. "She's nice." "She smiled at you a lot," Ben adds, grinning. "Next weekend, I will see her again. And the one after that. Eventually, we're meeting for coffee on Tuesdays after I drop the kids at school. There's no rush, no declarations. Just the slow building of trust in the spaces where no one's demanding more than the other can give. It feels right. And then, of course, Clara calls. I let it ring, but she leaves a voicemail. Her voice is raw, unpolished, like she's speaking without rehearsing. "Ethan, I know you've moved on, but I miss you. I miss us. I miss the kids. I don't want this to be the end." I listen twice. Not because I'm tempted, but because I want to be certain of what she's really saying. 2 nights later, she's at the door. It's raining, her hair damp, coat unbuttoned. "I can't stop thinking about how it used to be," she says. "How we laughed, how we dreamed. Can't we try again? Just once?" Her eyes are bright, with hope, with desperation, with that familiar way she used to pull me into her gravity. I take a deep breath. "Clara, I've tried to picture it. But every time I do, I remember why I left. Why are we here now?" Her lips tremble. "You're choosing them over me." "No," I say gently. "I'm choosing us over what broke us." For a moment, the rain is the only sound. Then she nods, wiping her cheek, and steps back. After she leaves, I call Anna. I tell her I'd like to bring her to the kids' school fair next week. There's a pause, then that warm laugh. "I'd like that." For the first time in years, the horizon doesn't look like an escape route. It looks like a place worth heading toward. There's a spot on the edge of town where the river bends just enough to catch the evening sun. The kids call it our golden place. We come here often now, fishing in the spring, skipping stones in the summer, watching leaves float past in the fall. Tonight, it's winter cold, but Ella insisted we come anyway. She's bundled in her yellow scarf, Ben's in his navy coat, and the 3 of us sit on the old wooden bench looking at the water turning copper under the fading light. I used to think legacy meant something grand, a title, a business, a name in the right circles. Clara believed that, too. But here, watching Ella draw spirals in the frost on the bench while Ben tosses pebbles into the water, I realize mine is simpler. It's this, being here, every time they look for me. Keeping the promises I can keep. Teaching them that stability isn't about what you own, but about who stays when things get messy. My phone buzzes in my pocket. I already know who it is. Clara's name lights up the screen. This time, I didn't even open the message. There was a time when her voice could tilt my whole world, make me question every step forward. But now, she's part of a different chapter, one that's closed, bound, and shelved. Ella tugs my sleeve. "Daddy, are we gonna build that cabin someday?" It takes me a moment to place it, the story I used to tell them at bedtime, back before things fell apart. A little wooden place by the lake, with a big porch and stars we could almost touch. Yeah, I say. Someday. And I mean it, not as a fantasy, but as a plan. We walk back toward the truck as the sun dips low. Anna's waiting for us at home with dinner, her laughter already part of the background music of our lives. The kids run ahead, racing to see who can climb into the cab first. I hang back for a second, taking in the trail behind us, the quiet bend of the river, the sky going from gold to indigo. This is it, not the life I planned, not the one I thought I had to fight to keep, but the one I built after everything broke. And it's ours.